We are going to talk a little bit about Knotel, but this is not a sales pitch. This is about how we approach portfolio strategy. So for those that don't know me, my name is Vic Agarwal. I run enterprise for Knotel. Uh, Been here about 7 months. Prior to that, I was the number two for global real estate for AECOM out in LA. Prior to that, I ran global real estate strategy for American Express. And prior to that, I had CFO role and portfolio strategy roles at BlackRock, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan Chase. So what we're going to talk about today is how you diversify your real estate portfolio. Um, and a lot of that comes down to using flexibility. Harvard Business Review, put a quote out about how important flexibility is to a portfolio. Now, this is nothing new for any corporate real estate executive. We've been trying to do this forever. Take a traditional lease, talk to the landlord, get me my termination rights, partial, full, I want expansion rights, all these different things, but they all come at a cost. And if you exercise a termination clause, you're going to pay unamortized TIs, you're going to pay unamortized commissions, you have asset write-offs. It's a huge financial pain that you take on the P&L, cash flow, and balance sheet. So yeah, there are some advantages of taking a direct lease. Some of these are long-term stability, you have more control of the space, you have a direct ownership relationship, you have the ability to amortize your assets that you own over a longer period of time, and you can really control your privacy, your IT, your security as you enter the space. Now, flexible workspace is something that's new, and it's a new tool that's in people's tool belts. Now, what Knotel is not, and why I use flexible workspace, is that we are not co-working. So a company that is enterprise grade do not want 2 seats, 3 seats sitting next to random strangers. They need to have their privacy. Some of their employees maybe were using PII data, social security numbers. There's just a lot of intangible risk and tangible risk around having a transient crowd working with your employees. As you think about flexible workplace, there's a lot of different ways to use flexible. Your company may have gone through an M&A, it may be divesting a company. It may need swing space. A line of business may need to work differently. Your CEO may have said, I need 300 seats tomorrow, and that becomes your oh shit moment, right? That you need to go and solve, and you gotta be the superhero. So the benefits of flexible is that you don't have dual occupancy. So US GAAP says you have to straight line your rent as soon as you take possession of the keys, which is a drag on earnings. CFOs don't like that. That goes away. You don't have disposition costs in the future. So say your headcount balloons, say it reduces by 50%, you don't have to go worry about disposition of the space and subleasing it. You don't spend capital. You are basically converting capital to OpEx. So that frees up your free cash flow for a company, and that allows them to go buy things with their cash and use their balance sheet for something that's more accretive to earnings. You can have a fully serviced office experience which has IT, design, workplace strategy. You don't have to give up some of the stuff I said in the traditional lease about the IT. Find the right provider, they can even hand you the fiber optic wire and walk away. Everyone's headcount fluctuates. There's a Boston Consulting analysis that said 41% of the companies interviewed said their headcount projections were wrong by 100%. And this is not new to anyone, right? So if you think about that, that's a huge drain. Real estate's the second largest expense for a company. So getting it wrong, it has huge financial consequences. So why go long in space when the word future inherently means uncertainty? And you have the ability to have a fully tailored office that matches your space standards and branding experience. You use a certain type of sit-stand desk across the world, we can match that. Michael talked about whether you go to Portugal or London or DC or LA, they want to have the same experience because people travel. You can still have that when you work with a flexible office provider that is global in scale. There's a mix between this now too. So some companies are saying, you know what, I know what my base headcount is going to be. It's never going to change. But I do win projects and I do lose projects. So I need the capability to fluctuate up and down based on future needs. So that's what I call the hybrid model. The hybrid model is basically that you can add flexibility at the transaction level. So a company like Knotel, and this is something we've actually done in London, is a company has said that they wanted space and go long, but they want to be in the whole building, but they don't want to have the whole building today. I'm like, great. So what do? You reach out to a flexible service provider like ourselves. We took down the rest of the building. They took a floor day one, so they can contract down. And then they also have call options or first right refusals to go long in that space. It's adding true flexibility at the transaction level and true scalability, so you're not bifurcated. You don't have to add a second, third, fourth building or have future disposition risk. One of the concepts I want to talk about, and this is a metric that every company uses, which is net present value, to determine what's the best way to make a decision, building A versus building B. Time value of money. Time value of money tells you $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. But there's a flaw. It doesn't tell you whether the decision was right day two. It doesn't tell you whether you're spending good money after bad money. So there's a reverse concept of that called the money value of time. So if there's a way to create a structure where you're spending a few percents more to not have to make a decision, that's valuable. What keeps people up at night? I went too long in space. I went too short in space. My CFO doesn't want to spend the capital. I have a fully depreciated asset. I don't want to have dual occupancy, have a bubble period. All these things that to you as a real estate professional is like, this is a no-brainer, we should be doing it. These keep other people up at night. I have disposition risk and asset write-offs. What happens, right? By paying a few percents more, if you have a capability to scale up your headcount or scale down a headcount because you have flexible workplace, you're not spending capital, you don't have dual occupancy, that really transforms the scalability and your ability to do portfolio optimization on a real-time basis. You've heard a lot about what exposure a landlord wants to have in a building, and people talk 15, 20% of that space to be flexible. But for a corporate real estate executive, what is the right mix? People want to have metrics. Everyone has KPIs. Well, every business is different. So you have office vacancy rates that are different by market and by industry. And most companies say, you know what, I want to have 10% vacancy so I don't have to restack the whole building. But then you have on top of that, not everyone comes to the office every day. And yes, you solve that through heads to seat ratios, you look at badge swipe data, et cetera, but the truth of the matter is people travel, people take vacations, people take holidays, things happen. The short answer to that, right, is that there's really no answer to that. You really have to look at your business and say, by market, by business unit, what is the right metric that I want to have? And you start implementing that based off of that. Flexibility is the most important thing that a company can add to their portfolio because it really allows them to have scalability upwards and downwards for their second largest expense for their company. Thank you.